All right, everybody, this is the game that you have had circled. Podcast 1558. I have got a very special guest with us tonight. We've got Joe Miller from the Overreaction Podcast, Buffalo Bills. Guys, this is the game, especially for me when the schedule came out. This was the one. I can put behind me what has happened thus far. Everything is riding on this game. Joe, thank you for taking the time to sit down and talk with us about this. This city's pumped up for this game right now. We've got Sunday Night Football, Arrowhead Stadium, Josh Allen coming to town. This is the shit that you live for with football. AFC Championship rematch. I know how we're feeling out here. Joe, what's it? You guys are riding high right now. You just stomped the Houston Texans into the ground. And how are you guys feeling about coming to Kansas City this weekend?
Well, I'll first start with saying that it's rather interesting to me that you guys would have circled this one on your calendar, because for us as Bills fans, you're the hunted, right? We're the hunter.
Yeah.
You're the hunted.
Yep.
Just like, so for the Jets fans, for Dolphins fans, for Patriots fans, they're circling that game against us, and we're like, we're not looking at you at all. We're looking at the Chiefs and the Bucs. We have the Bucs on our schedule this year too.
Yep.
So just to hear that you guys are anticipating and excited about this game is a little bit different than maybe we probably would have thought you guys would be as far as just Chief fans in general. How are we feeling? We got stunned. We got stunned game one against the Steelers. I was at that football game. And we went into halftime 10-0, and didn't think it was in the bag, but it was like the Steelers aren't playing well, and then things just kind of slid sideways. And then obviously, 3 solid games against 3 what we would call inferior opponents. I mean, the Dolphins aren't great, obviously. The Washington football team should be better than it is, and that Texans team is hot trash. They're probably worse than the Jets. Let's be honest. So I mean, there's a measure of riding high. Josh Allen returned to form against the Washington football game. That was exciting. But for all intents and purposes, 2 shutouts. That's rare. The game that the defense played, I think that's probably where we're at right now. The defense is playing better than they played in 2019. So 2020, our defense was kind of an anomaly. It was a little out of form, a lot of character for Sean McDermott defenses. And for us, with what we got out of Josh Allen, had we had a true McDermott defense in 2020, there's no telling what we could have gotten from that team. Who knows? Maybe we go to the Super Bowl, and you never know. But at the end of the day, the defense didn't show up in either game against the Chiefs. The defense didn't really show up against the Titans. The defense, had some struggles all season long until about the last 8 games. But for all intents and purposes, we're excited too. I mean, we're on the edge of our seats. Everybody has a bully. Everybody has that team that they can't seem to get around. And right now, for us, that's you guys.
Yeah, and, to go on to what you said, yes, we are the hunted. I think it really is all about Josh Allen. The dude, everyone knows he's special, and I think when you have a quarterback as electric as Josh Allen, he is going to be a hunter no matter what. We understand how it has shaken out these past couple games against Buffalo, but when you've got a quarterback as talented as him, anything goes, anytime. And this Chiefs defense is looking a little suspect right now. Man, like you said, last year, defense was a little bit of an anomaly. It's really maybe even overperforming right now. A couple of shutouts, just not heard of in the NFL. And coming into the season, it was the Chiefs' defense that people were really out here were thinking it is going to be a difference maker. We thought that it was going to be able to stop the run. It was going to be dynamic in some places. We've got some young, high-ceiling corners that have really low floors, but we're closer to the floor on really everything across the board right now. So it's really kind of just shocked this team, I think, to see how bad that defense is. And honestly, a lot of people, like, let's face it, Patrick is 5th in yards right now. Patrick Mahomes 5th in passing yards, 1st in touchdowns. But for Buffalo Bills fans that aren't really getting to watch this Chiefs team, the offense is putting up the numbers, but it isn't running as smooth as you'd think. I think it still seems kind of panicky. The offensive line, for Bills fans that also don't know, it's 5 new starters this year from left to right. So they're going to take time to gel. They're getting there. So things kind of seem scatterbrained when we're on the field. And we're seeing now that you guys are familiar with Sammy Watkins. And as much as we loved Sammy, not having him out there, he was injury prone. We let him walk, and now not having that veteran in the right place at the right time is just showing from wide receiver 2 and down. None of them are performing, which is why the Chiefs made I won't call it desperation move because it's not a whole lot of risk, but Josh Gordon is coming to town, going to get his first start against Buffalo this Sunday night. At least that's how things are pointing right now. If you have seen this Chiefs offense, it is leaning on the run a lot more than we've seen in the past. We've got consecutive 100-yard games. Now, like you said, your defense is running, well, you haven't given up a 100-yard rushing game all year yet. You've only given up one 200 passing yard game. You really just kind of beat the shit out of these teams, including the Steelers, who I know somehow came out on top. That was more fluky than anything. What do you think, though? Obviously, and I'm not, this isn't tooting Patrick's horn or the Chiefs. You haven't seen a tier 1 quarterback, a tier 1 offense yet. This has all the makings of a 2018 Chiefs-Rams shootout type of game, 54-51. Sure. How do you think your defense will be able to hold up to maybe a above-average run game?
Well, first things first, what you talked about or how you described the Chiefs' defense is very much how the Bills' offense the Chiefs' offense is how the Bills' offense has kind of been working too. They've been kind of sputtering along. Josh Allen had one really good game. They are not right now performing the way that they did in 2020. And as of last weekend, the Bills made a huge shuffle on their offensive line as well. Feliciano, the left guard, was out. So Ike Butker went in, and the Bills benched Cody Ford at right guard, moved Darrell Williams, our right tackle, to right guard, and then entered the rookie Spencer Brown, who is a monstrosity of a human being, and the offensive line played better. To answer your question, the run game, last year, game 1, in the rain, amidst all the COVID crap, and the Bills really got a raw deal, and it started with the Titans the week before. And I don't want to make excuses, but just to get into the mindset of players real quick, the NFL told the Titans one more positive COVID test and you guys are done. We're going to move the Bills game or we're going to do whatever we got to do. They got another positive COVID test, and then all of a sudden the NFL was like, we'll play the game on Tuesday at 5 or whatever time it was, some crazy time. And it was ridiculous. And not to mention there was players on our team, Tre'Davious White, that almost opted out. That literally didn't play in that football game, and there was a quote unquote injury, and I'm not saying that Tre'Davious White was not telling the truth, but it wouldn't surprise me for a man that was scared for his family that he was like, I'm not going down there. They've got 21 people with COVID. I'm not going to Tennessee. Like, I'm not going down there to play those guys. And then it followed it right up with the Kansas City Chiefs game, which I believe that game kind of got moved, or it was a little bit weird too. But
it was a weird time too. Yeah.
Yeah, the Bills dared the Chiefs to run. Right, the Bills were like, "Go ahead, run the football," and run you did. And the Bills' run defense last year, and you did. The Bills' run defense last year was not good. And the reality is Patrick Mahomes probably could have thrown for 300 yards in that game if he wanted to anyway. There was a great deal of it just wasn't the Bills. Their heads were not in it. Josh Allen had a shoulder injury that was, I think, right in the middle of his shoulder injury that he'd gotten off of the Raiders game. He wasn't the same after the Raiders game for about 4 weeks. Coming into this football game, and then obviously the championship game is the championship game. Sometimes the wheels come off, and it's just not a contest. And you guys had your way with us, and it was what it was. Kudos, right, to what the Chiefs did in that football game. Outcoached, outplayed, outsmarted, out everything as far as that football game goes, other than the doink when Josh Allen chucked the ball at the head of I can't remember which defender it was that threw him to the ground. That still lives in infamy here in Buffalo. That was our only redeeming thing that happened in that football game. But Coming into this game, the run defense for the Buffalo Bills this year has been thus far shored up. We've played some decent running backs so far this year, and to be honest with you, we've shut them all down. If Kansas City is going to rely on the rush, it puts me in a situation where it's like, oh, yeah, run the ball. Please do. Like, run at us. Because for us, we fear Pat Mahomes, and we fear Travis Kelce. So there's a measure of trepidation that I would have if they're going to come out and they're going to just gunsling it down the field. I'm more interested to find out what the Bills coaching staff is going to do, because they're going to do one of two things. They're either going to turtle shell and try to make the Chiefs do something or be something they're not, which is going to mean the Bills are going to try to be something they're not, right? They're going to be like, oh, we're going to do something weird and try to control the game or control the clock and slow this game down or speed it up. Slow it down meaning not high flying, speed it up time-wise. Or Brian Daboll is going to come out and put the pedal to the metal, and we're going to throw the football all over the field. Like because the pass defense for the Chiefs right now is 30th in the league. That's bad, especially against a guy like Josh Allen. It's also bad that the Chiefs are coming into this football game where they have to manufacture a rush against Josh Allen, who, oh, by the way, I don't know if you've seen the PFF stats. Josh Allen right now is number 1 in the league and was, I think, 2 last year against the blitz. So for Bills fans, for us, it's like, no, blitz him, please. Like, he likes it. Bring the rush. Yeah. So if you're manufacturing the rush, and you saw it in the Eagles game, it left some guys uncovered, Josh is going to find those guys. If you're bringing extra rushers to get pressure, he's going to get out of the pocket just like Pat Mahomes can, and he's going to find those guys. So I'm more interested in what the coaching staff is going to do. Are they going to like literally do the same thing and like try to grind this thing out, which I think is a horrible idea because, and I'll say it this way, Billy, literally, if you're telling me that the Buffalo Bills are going to come into Kansas City and put the ball in Zach Moss's and Devin Singletary's hands versus putting it in Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders, and Dawson Knox's hands, you're making a mistake. If they do that, I'm going to be a pissed off Bills fan on Monday morning. I would rather see us come out and throw caution to the wind and literally just let's light the scoreboard up and let's leave it all on the table and then see if our defense can hold, which is what we want, the Chiefs below whatever score we put up, right? So that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. And that, it's so interesting to hear you say, yes, please blitz us. Please. and that's all we are just begging for right now, which leads me to this question on the other side of the ball for Buffalo. I guess on the other side of the ball, I see if he can handle the run. Yes. Can you get to Patrick? Can you manufacture a pass rush by only sending 4 defenders?
Last year, no. And you saw it. You saw it in both of those football games. This year, Star Lotulelei is the anchor. He's the one technique, the anchor of our defensive line. He opted out last year. And a lot of Bills fans came into last year through the season, saw the defense look the way that it looked. I'm a big vocalist person that was talking about it. And I said, if Star Lotulelei comes back in 2021 and this defense returns to form, he should be considered the greatest defensive football player that's ever played. Because to take an NFL defense from number 3 in 2019, you opt out, and they go to number 26 at the start. I think they finished around 12 or 13. And then you come back, and they turn into the number 1 defense, like a defensive line and defensive team. You are impacting the football game. And literally, that's what we have seen. I would encourage you and all of your listeners to watch some game film on the Bills, to watch what Lotulelei is doing in these football games. Against the Dolphins at one point, they were triple teaming him, which is allowing all these guys, 4 rushers, to be open and to basically do their thing. Now, Greg Rousseau, the rookie that was supposed to be a quote-unquote project, has flashed this season so far. He's a monster of a man. The report says he's 6'6". The dude is, I've stood next to him. He's every bit of 6'8". He's a big old boy. He's very long. He's very quick. Mario Addison is his head is in the game. Obviously, we've still got Jerry Hughes. Greg Rousseau, if he plays, he just popped up as an injury and did not participate in practice today, which was a surprise to all of Bills Mafia. So and Ed Oliver is playing like a man on fire with Lotulelei next to him. So that's another piece. So last year, Ed Oliver slid to the 1 technique, out of position. He's a 3 tech. They drafted Ed Oliver to have him play next to Star Lotulelei so that Lotulelei would suck up the blockers and Ed would play kind of that Aaron Donald role and just like mess with people. So to answer the question, they can get there with 4, and oh, by the way, they also bring the blitz from the corner, from the nickel safety, from the linebackers, and from different places. Where you have a potential advantage in this game is going to be Matt Milano. Matt Milano, once again, is hurt, which means that, again, he might not get to play against the Chiefs, which is going to put Travis Kelce on the shoulders of Taron Johnson. It's going to put him on the shoulders of possibly Tremaine Edmonds, who was the AFC Defensive Player of the Week. However, he's not Matt Milano. Matt Milano can run with a tight end. Edmonds not quite as much. So I think they can get pressure too and get Pat Mahomes uncomfortable, but we got to see it, right? I can sit here and say I think they can do it all day long. We got to see it.
Yep. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, hearing you explain it, it sounds like it is absolutely possible. And it is the kryptonite of this offense right now. Teams just daring us to run the ball and us just having to do it. Bills fans, if this doesn't make you drool a little bit, you just heard Joe talk about star. Creed Humphrey is our rookie center that could very well be directly across from this man who's had a great 4 games for a rookie. I mean, he's given up a sack, but he hasn't necessarily seen quite that sort of matchup directly across from him. We've seen the Myles Garretts of the world on the outside and whatnot, but this could maybe be the biggest challenge we've had. We had Fletcher Cox this past weekend, but he is sliding a little bit. That is very interesting. All the Chiefs offense can do is hope, even from the corners, from safeties, nickels coming in to blitz. We just have to hope that you blitz us because, like you said, when Josh Allen was number 2 against the blitz, I'm pretty sure it was Patrick number 1 against the blitz. These are guys that like to let it fire out. And you're right. You have to, as a coaching staff, you've got to stay patient and say, no, don't send it to these quarterbacks. You can't do it. You just can't do it. The Chiefs can't do it against Buffalo, and I would advise to not do it against Patrick Mahomes. This just really, really does have all the makings of a shootout. I think the point spread, last I checked, I think is only 2.5, which means it's a pick'em game in the Chiefs' favor. Yeah, if this were not in Kansas City, odds would be in Bills' favor right now, even on a neutral ground. I think Bills would be the favorite. Yeah. Oh, man. That is crazy. So, speaking of your injuries, something that, to me, pops out, and you tell me if you guys think that these are as important of injuries as I think they are. Jordan Poyer and Tre'Davious White not participating today. What are those injuries like? How severe is it? Do they have a shot to play?
Well, the Poyer injury, to me, he was held out of the Texans game. He injured himself in the Washington game, jumped up, hobbled, whatever. And when he came off the field at the end, there's video of him like jumping and bouncing as he's coming off the field, and it was like, oh, he's fine. And then the Bills held him out. So my guess is they held him out from a precautionary standpoint. Even with them holding him out, again, against Davis Mills, and Davis Mills isn't exactly, Patrick Mahomes. Jaquan Johnson and DeMar Hamlin played very, very well in his absence. However, I would say that I expect Jordan Poyer to play this football game. Tre'Davious White, I'm thinking it's more of a vet rest day. If he's anything, he's tweaked a little bit. He's going to play in this football game. He's not going to be there. I think Taron Johnson will be back in this football game. The big one is Greg Rousseau, rookie kid. Like, he was not injured, and then all of a sudden it's like there's a tweak there, and it's like, well, what's really going on? So I don't have any inside information. So
good. I mean that's kind of what I was expecting. I think you're right, especially when it's Davis Mills and the Texans coming. Let's shut some things down here. We shouldn't need it. You didn't need. I don't think you needed the backups to play. I think the backups' parents could have maybe got in there as Davis Mills threw for 87 yards. 87 yards. Oh my goodness.
The Bills did some fun stuff against him. The Bills did, and they've done a lot of different things this year with that defensive line. Again, Latulele is going to suck up blockers. That's what he does, and it's going to set Ed Oliver free. But against Taylor Heineke, they just basically pressed in and they pressed in and stood the offensive lineman up and didn't let him out of the and didn't basically push him out of the pocket. Against Davis Mills, they did both. They brought pressure and they just stood the offensive lineman up. So this defensive line is working very, very well, just kind of like mixing it up. It's not all blitz all the time like Pittsburgh would be, but it's also not just like, holding people back, like some other teams would be, where it's just like we're just going to do 4 and nothing else. So they're going to give a mix. The best part about what's going on with Buffalo right now is that they're playing complementary football. The defense is carrying the offense when the offense isn't playing well, and they're just playing lights out. And I don't remember how much research was done, but we looked a little bit, and the amount of teams that had a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense, like every time in the NFL in the last 20 or 25 years, that team has won the Super Bowl. So if that offense can find itself and return to top 5 and that defense is top 5, the writing is kind of on the wall. Like pretty much they always win the Super Bowl. So it's there. We just got to see it, right?
Yeah, and I love the addition of Emmanuel Sanders on that squad.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah, for sure.
That there are a lot of places. Obviously, he still has some left in the tank, and there are some places that wouldn't have been as attractive for him. The fact that he has Josh Allen slinging the rock to him right now is freaking nuts. Knowing this could be his last stop in the NFL. Kansas City hates Emmanuel Sanders. For you guys that don't know, back in the day, we thought he was coming to Kansas City. We had a verbal agreement in place, sort of a handshake deal, and then he leveraged us and went to Denver and won a ring. Oh my God! We hate Denver more than anything. We'll always hate Denver more than the Raiders, more than the Chargers. We hate Denver,
division rival,
and we hate Emmanuel Sanders, and I think he hates us.
Well, hopefully that brings some juice to the game for him, right? So hopefully he's got a little bit of an extra edge.
And I really hope he doesn't bring any more juice than needed, because, it seems like our defense is that the health. We are turning a positive corner. We had full participation from Frank Clark, Travarius Ward, Willie Gay, Rashad Fenton. So we got 2 corners coming back. Our best pass rusher, which right now could be me, and Willie Gay, which we're hoping is a shot in the arm to this defense of young, fast linebacker.
That's a concern for the Bills. Willie Gay, that's one guy we're a little bit nervous, because that could change the dynamic of the football game a little bit for us, just because of his speed.
It's what is interesting. It's the Chiefs don't tend to bring them off of IR and let them play that week. So as excited as Chiefs fans are that he is showing that he's back, he's been activated, I do think it's a bit of a long shot, or they know this is no time to be conservative. We can't.
Right.
And I do think this game, while we had it circled before the season started, we have circled it again, because this is the type of game that can erase what has happened against the Ravens and against the Chargers. 2 games that we know we very well should have won. We very well should have lost week 1. And we should have rattled off a couple of wins after that and didn't. Things are just not feeling right. It smells and tastes like a Super Bowl hangover to me. Back-to-back championship games. The regular season just isn't enough for this squad to care sometimes. And adding another game to the regular season, it's just not feeling right, but Josh Gordon has brought a little bit of energy to this fan base, and we'll see what's going on. Well, won't take too much more of your time. I'll rattle off a couple of questions here. One, sure. Give me your prediction for Sunday night's game.
I know what I want to see. I want to see something around the making of 42-38. One way or the other. I want to see efficient, right, like precision offense playing against defenses that are doing well and doing what they're supposed to do. To be honest with you, I hope that I see 2 proficient offenses that are playing at a high level with our defense actually playing at a high level too, because that puts us in a position of being in the driver's seat. My fear is that the Bills are going to, like I said, come out and try to ground and pound and try to keep, try to force the Chiefs into running the football as well, which the Chiefs have been doing, so they probably would oblige that right now, and just it turns into a snooze fest. Literally, that's my fear, but I would love to see it somewhere in that 42-38 range, and one way or the other. If the Bills lose this football game, it doesn't necessarily mean anything to the season for us. I mean,
doesn't mean anything for you guys.
We're going to see the Chiefs in the playoffs, right? I mean, it's gonna happen. So
hopefully.
This game is this game is a bar setter for us. Did the moves that we made, the acquisitions that we made in the offseason, the draft picks and Greg Rousseau, and the subtle coaching changes the things that coaches have done between 20 and 21, have those things that gotten us a little bit further than we were last year, when clearly we were not ready to be in that stadium with the Chiefs. So this is a measuring stick game. If we win, great. I'll be semi-relieved. If we throttle the Chiefs, so that defense steps up, and this game ends up being 35-10 or 35-17,
like the Super Bowl,
Buffalo might burn. Like literally, Bills Mafia is going to be. We're going to be impossible to deal with on Twitter. It's going to be awful. Like, I'm going to hate it. It's like slow. It's week 5, guys. Slow down. Like, they haven't given the award to anybody yet, right? So it's going to be insufferable if the Bills throttle the Chiefs, which I don't see happening.
But you do. I mean, if it does happen, I mean, you're going to keep yourself in check, but I think you're going to have a little voice in the back of your head saying, "Oh shit, these guys shouldn't be a problem if we just boat race them out of their own stadium."
Well, it's more about just proving to yourselves you can beat them. That's the 42-38 thing. If the Chiefs win 42-38, that's the Bills telling themselves we can play with these guys. Like, our offense can play with these guys. We just need to do a couple things on defense different, slow them down once or twice on a drive, and we can beat them. Like, to me, there's a lot of positive that could come from a 42-38 Bills loss, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. And, something we're seeing in, like you said, you don't want to see them make it a snooze fest. You want the foot on the gas. And I think where Bills fans should be watching, it's not even necessarily, is our foot on the gas running or passing? Are we going for it on 4th down? Because this team cannot stop us. So historically, it's 4th and 6. Maybe you're on the Chiefs 45. You're not going for that historically. But right now, you're absolutely going for it.
No, the Bills do.
Okay. Well, if the Bills do, historically the NFL may not be doing that, but the Bills should absolutely take every shot. You can't. Really, if I'm the opposing team, what do I care about giving the ball back to the Chiefs somewhere if I think, who cares if they score? Let's either bury them or let them score and get the ball back. And I really hope that the Chiefs kind of start to take that aggressive mindset as well. Didn't punt last week, and but we're not getting excited about the Eagles' victory. Like, I doubt Bills Mafia is getting overly excited about Jacoby Brissett, Heineke, and Mills Davis. But shutouts are shutouts. We did not shut out Philly. Those are just hard things to do. So then, this should be an interesting question, and I will damn near maybe even agree with you right now. What is your way too early Super Bowl prediction?
Oh, it's way too early for that. I don't even know who's going to come out of the NFC right now. The Rams look like the team to beat, and then you got the Cardinals playing out of their minds. Now, clearly, the first quarter of the season is a habitual liar. The first quarter of the season is never, other than last year, 2020, because of COVID, it was different. But generally speaking, the first 4 or 5 games don't really tell the truth. The good teams, and we look at the Patriots, for the years and years and years that they would start 1-2, 1-3, or 2-4, and then go to the Super Bowl and win. Teams that are good find themselves after, to your point about the Chiefs coming out a little bit herky-jerky, not really finding rhythm, they're going to find it. The Chiefs that offense is going to find itself. I don't care what anybody says. And the Bills are kind of in that same spot where the offense really kind of needs to find itself, and Josh has to find his mojo and find his rhythm again. I think it's too early. It's going to be, to me, I think it's going to come down to, obviously, the Chiefs or the Bills coming out of the AFC. And then I think it's going to be the Rams or the Bucks. And there is a surprise contender, in my opinion, in the NFC that could potentially be that Cardinals team. And I don't know how, because I'm not a big Kyler Murray fan. There's things about his game that throw me sideways. The way he runs, holding the ball, and then runs with it down at his hip. I don't understand how guys aren't swatting at his hip. Like, it's going to happen. At some point, the league's going to catch up and be like, oh, just swat at his hip, and you'll get the ball out every time. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Way too early. What is yours?
I could have. I could just say the exact same words. A week ago for me, I'm going Chiefs, Bills, and Rams. But then you see what the Cardinals did, and it didn't seem like they just barely beat the Rams. They just beat their ass. And Kyler Murray, if healthy, he is just an all-world athlete. Maybe not the smartest guy with ball management and things like that, but the guy is a two-sport just monster, and he has been his whole entire life. This guy is generally the best athlete on the field at any sport. So, yeah, if he's clicking, and you even got production out of A.J. Green, I thought A.J. Green was dead. And now all of a sudden, he's averaging 7 targets a game, and he's getting in the end zone. It's nuts what they're doing. Yeah, like you said, I'm with you. If it's not the Chiefs for me, I say it's got to be the Bills, because I'm not a believer in Baker Mayfield, even though that team is better overall than both of our squads, I think, rostered.
Right now.
It's just they just don't have a quarterback, though.
And they match up well against you guys, which is interesting. So we haven't played them yet. It'll be interesting to see how they match up against us. The other thing about that Cardinals team is I wanted J.J. Watt bad. And J.J. Watt is a havoc wreaker, and there was a lot of people who was like, oh, he's done. And he's down there wreaking havoc in Arizona. Yep. I wanted J.J. Watt really bad. Obviously, he didn't want to be in Buffalo. Otherwise, he'd be here.
So, I am glad he did not end up in Buffalo. And then before I let you out of here, give me your either your favorite or in your opinion, the greatest Buffalo Bill of all time.
Oh, the greatest Buffalo. That's tough. I mean, it's got to be Bruce Smith. I mean, Bill's Mafia love.
I was thinking Bruce Smith, yeah.
Yeah, Bill's Mafia love is always going to go to Jim Kelly. Jim Kelly doesn't get a lot of fanfare around the league for what Jim Kelly did and who he was as a quarterback. There's always going to be the Elway, Marino, Montana, people that are there. But Jim Kelly was Peyton Manning before Peyton Manning existed. And what I mean by that is, Ted Marchibroda was Jim Kelly's offensive coordinator when the K-gun, when that hurry-up offense was designed. And then Ted Marchibroda went to Indianapolis and was Peyton Manning's head coach. And that's where they kind of instilled and began to grow. So all those concepts that Manning ran came from Jim Kelly. He's vastly underrated, but all that to say that, and then you've got Thurman Thomas, who is,
Thurman
it's going to go back to that.
Awesome.
It's going to go back to It's going to go back to that '90s team. But if you're going to ask who the greatest Buffalo Bill ever to play football was, you're going to say Bruce Smith because of what he did. I mean, he played in a 3-4. And he rushed from the right side against the left tackle every single game, never switched side, always played the best player on the offensive line in a 3-4. So he's not even generally supposed to be the rusher. Normally it's that outside that outside linebacker that's rushing the passer. And he walked out of the game with more sacks than any human in history. Like, the dude was a monster. Yeah. And he was a monster in his late 30s in Washington.
Yeah. And I guess, as a Bills fan, you got to be excited thinking it's possible that Josh Allen becomes the greatest Bill of all time, even, outplaying Jim Kelly, whose story just alone, Jim Kelly, I mean, Jim Kelly's just the man. He's had a crazy life, but yeah. Well, that was awesome. Great answer there.
One last thing on Jim Kelly that people don't realize. Jim Kelly played 2 less years in the NFL before he came in. So basically, John Elway had a head start on him for 2 years, and then Kelly retired in '96, 3 years before Elway retired. When Jim retired and left the league, he had better stats and better numbers than Elway did, and then Elway played 3 more seasons, won 2 Super Bowls, and obviously eclipsed his numbers. And then people walk away from it going, Elway was way better than Jim. And it's like, was he? Yeah. Are you sure? Because Elway couldn't beat Jim. Dan Marino couldn't beat Jim. Joe Montana couldn't beat Jim. Nobody could beat Jim, right?
Yeah. Man. Got it. We hate John Elway around here. Man. Well, Joe, thank you for the time. Tell us where can we see you and when can we see you?
So I am a content creator, podcaster, YouTuber on Buffalo Rumblings, which is a part of SB Nation. I do 4 shows every week. My primary show is a post-game show called the Overreaction Podcast that airs live on YouTube. The Buffalo Rumblings YouTube channel, 9 o'clock every Sunday night after the football game, and obviously this week it'll air later, probably about 1 o'clock in the morning. But that's where you can find it, and then it drops as a podcast on Mondays, so you get that on the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network as well. So yeah, that's my primary show. So if you want to hear whatever I'm saying about whatever the Bills just did, that's where you want to be. But I also host a prediction show. I also host the Off Tackle with John Fina show. John Fina was the offensive tackle for that 90s Bills team. And then I do a show on Wednesdays called the Hump Day Hotline with Jay Spence the King. So, yeah, I got a lot going on.
Nice. My man, Joe Miller, thank you again for sitting down with us. Guys, for myself and Matt Bird and Justin Herrera, this is podcast 1558. We will see you this weekend. We'll definitely be checking Joe Miller's podcast, his post-game show out after this Sunday night, the Bills and Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium. And like I said, for everyone in the squad, this is podcast 1558, and go Chiefs.
Go Bills.